Alright, the topic again, predicting the future, leveraging advanced analytics for data-driven marketing decision. We already have our moderator here, and she has a special request that she'll be, introducing all the key speakers. So I will be inviting Roberta, Cianetti. She is Client Solution Director, Politico Europe. Can we have a big round of applause for her? And let's start up this wonderful session.
Thank you so much. Yes, I wanted to introduce them myself because I really got to know them a bit more also in person, and was honored to be on the panel with them today. So first up, Mukundan. He specializes in AI-driven data governance, business intelligence, and agile methodologies to drive organizational growth. His expertise lies in integrating machine learning, predictive analytics, and cloud platforms into actionable strategies that bridge the gap between data insights and business outcomes. Please, a round of applause for him. Then we have Dr. Luke Sood. He's a futurist, he's an AI ethicist and philosopher. He's also the author of Genesis, Human Experience in the Age of AI, where he explored why we must go long on humanity and AI, embracing both to create a sustained, abundant future. And please welcome on stage Luke. Please a big round of applause. Next up we have Dinesh Ramchandani, Director of Data and Analytics at Unilever, where he has been for over 13 years. His role involves engaging senior stakeholders across various functions, translating complex data into scalable solutions, and securing funding to meet business KPIs. And last, please give a hand for Dinesh. And last but not least, Patricia Mulles. Pat has over 25 years of experience in media and technology. Worked for Sky Cable, CBS Interactive, Samsung, among others. Currently, she wears two hats. She's the founder and CEO of MNO Infinite Library, a marketing transformation agency, as well as the director and global head of partnerships at She Loves Data, an award-winning global nonprofit that helps women become leaders in data and AI. Well, wow, what a panel. So I'm very happy that today we talked about so many topics, but AI and the ethics of AI came up a lot, because who's better than Luke here to talk us a bit through. He has not just one book out, but also one coming up in September. So it gives us a lot to challenge our brains, and I would really like to hear from you a bit of the pros and the cons at the moment that we're living. I think he has a very interesting perspective. So 1-2 minutes there.
Thank you everyone for having me. So day job, I make money with AI as the rest of us here. Night job, if there's such a thing, I think I fight for humanity. It sounds really incredulous, but so the original Genesis, the title for the book, was meant as a children's storybook for my daughter. But because for the past 3 decades working with AI, with some of the luminaries of AI actually today, and looking at how fast this sector is growing, that got me quite alarmed. So what I did then was to publish a set of year-on-year predictions from 2025 until 2050. Obviously, 2025 till 2030 were a bit more detailed, and everything's happening like clockwork, so there's a lot more interest from the media. And this book was released in 2022, before the GPT moment, the DeepSeek moment. So again, a lot more renewed interest from governments across the world right now. But back to the point, ethics. I feel that super intelligence is upon us. So let me just break that down. Artificial general intelligence, depending on your definition, and there are many definitions, is where human capacity to do all kinds of tasks, thinking, reasoning, to do anything from housework all the way to factory work to doing research, coming up with mathematical theorems, proving that. Depending on how you define that, we are quite close, right? if it's just a year ago, some experts, Ray, Yoshua Bangio, I'm not sure whether you know these names, they couldn't agree on whether AGI is actually real. But right now, the debate is whether it's going to happen in 2029, if you follow Ray Kurzweil, or if you look at what I believe in 2027, 2028, and some other people are converging around at 2-3 years. So humanity has got about 3 to 5 years, what I call the fork, between a dystopian and a utopian scenario, 3 to 5 years, to set the place for rules and ethics for core human value sets. What that means is basically, as this quadruple exponential technology, so we've heard of exponential, then I think last year we came up with a term called a double exponential, but right now I think everyone agrees that it's a quadruple exponential. It's almost a straight line up in terms of advancements. If you look at the IQ for most of the stuff that's out there today, we can argue about this after this. You can say 135, 144, but the level of IQ that's accelerating is just tremendous, right? I'll add to that 2 more points, which is quite unique. You guys will hear it first in this room. The IQ part, we know they're coming at us. The way that big tech, the other developers are coming with AI, the IQ points are going up straight, double, quadruple, exponential. The other 2 things that doesn't get talked about that much is the AQ and the EQ. So EQ part, humanity thought that creative work will be the last place where they will come and replace us. But I think that's flipped around, right? It's kind of flipped around. The humanoids are coming out next year onwards, but the rest of the stuff, like what Adobe can do, creative advertising, that's going away first. So it's kind of a flip. The part that also doesn't get talked about a lot is the AQ part, or what I call the action cogency, so the planning and agency. So everyone's talking about agentic right now. The ability for these systems to do, when we hit AGI, which we are at the cusp of, to take on all of the planning, reasoning, and the decision-making away, it is really the first time that humanity is up against something that has its own ideas, own decision-making power, if we allow it to. So we got 3 to 5 years to set in place these guardrails to see whether we want to allow it to. But what I'm really worried about is that humanity doesn't have a very good track record. When we get things easy over the centuries, we were born into a land of scarcity. From the caveman days, we banded together to get more precious resources, food, land, whatever it is. We haven't set our mindset in the right place for a future of abundance, if that makes sense. Imagine if electricity comes zero, products and services become near zero, there's an abundance of everything that we stop fighting over. But I think this generation, and possibly the next generation that we have, we're just not used to that world right now. So anyway, that's just me.
Wow, no, wow, really, thank you, because I think this sets the conversation quite far. And before we go back to this very interesting point, I just want to hear from you, Dinesh. So you've been at Unilever for over 13 years. First of all, I would like to just hear from you a few words, like how things have changed. There is a very interesting study from Gartner that, of course, I read about, and that affirms by 25, so we're very, very close, 85% of customer interactions will be managed without a human. So how do you find, how do you think AI will play a pivotal role when we think about revolutionizing customer data and customer journey? We talked about this a lot today, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Luke, for setting up the background and context to this. As I heard your words, it felt like I am, passing through the volcanic clouds in Jupiter. The world is coming to an end, and that is possibly a reality that might happen at some stage, and that's amazing. And I think I'm just now going to contextualize this in the world of marketing. We are I am in a company, and I spent most of my career in and around selling soaps and ice creams and washing detergents. So what does it mean for us? The advent of AI has really changed the whole world of marketing in many different ways. So now coming back to your question, I think there are 2 words that easily AI is enabling the whole marketeers in, which is cost efficiency and speed of doing things. But I think what has really become amazing is how AI has also now been able to drive superlative engagement. What is most important for marketers, and my experience of working with marketers as a marketer, is just seeing how we are able to meet basic creative guidelines and adhere with 100% compliance. When you create something, whether it is Apple, branding, or whether it is Dove, what marketers love to see is great level of consistency. When we used to deploy digital assets 10 years ago, we saw that the compliance wasn't that great. We were putting anything out there and it did not work well. We diagnosed, dissected what was the challenge. Now that work has gone to zilch. So we don't do that. Compliance is 100% because of AI. Cost of creating things. There is a great example that was shared with the NVIDIA, keynote, at a media keynote, which was around how we are now creating content which are, leveraging the future trends and creating a trend. So again, the scope can be wide and far too many. But I think two things where it really helps us is drive cost efficiency and pace of doing things, which is just at a snap. I'll share more examples during the conversation, but I will let the speakers all speak.
Lovely, thank you so much, Dinesh. So very quickly, Patricia, same question for you. How do you think AI will continue to play a pivotal role as all of this is actually happening?
Hello, thank you. Great question. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. So before I give my perspective, I also want to explain my context. So I'm a businesswoman with 25 years of experience in marketing, and I'm also the mother of two Gen Z kids. And the reason why I mention that is because I'm personally invested in seeing how the future will play out, especially given the crossroads or the fork that Luke has mentioned. And so with that framework, right, I think, again, quoting Ray Kurzweil's view of the singularity, that is inevitably also where we are going in marketing. In the past, the singularity was defined as us interacting with humanoids or thinking machines, right? The interaction with each other. But now what Ray Kurzweil is saying in the singularity is nearer, he's saying that actually the singularity means our brains will be merging with the machines. So right now we're experiencing agentic AI where we have machines that we create deciding on our behalf. In the future, we can see something where we will be interacting with super enhanced humans, right? And what does that mean as humans and as marketeers? Right now, the gift of AI is it's able to handle so much information about customers very quickly, and the time to value, the time to react to the customer data enables you as marketeers, as product owners, to manage, for example, the customer journey. Before, you would need to look at several platforms and then plan a campaign around them. Right now, you're creating automated instances where you will anticipate what the customer will be doing based on previous data and also anticipate offerings. I mean, a clear example of this would probably be abandoned carts and the triggered responses and the emails. Hey, are you sure you don't want to buy these really cool Converse shoes? So that's an example. But in the future, the way marketing is going right now. Right now, it's really early days still because it's uneven. 70% of MarTech stacks are not delivering ROI, and so customers, are not quick to adapt to the current developments by the very loud voices of technology vendors. And I want to make a point about this, because the prevailing thought right now is by these very loud voices, by the very big technology parties, who are also the very powerful 1%, right? So I would like you to think about that, about who will control the future of MarTech. So that's my perspective.
Wow, well, Patricia, and on this, I think we're given here like a very difficult task to imagine, to predict the future, which is like, as our futurist here and ethicist here is saying, I mean, we have a very small time window to decide in terms of ethics, and at the same time, Dinesh talked about speed, and Patricia talked about timely decisions, and I mean, in all of this, let's go back also to the present, because to predict the future, you know, we also really have to have a very broad understanding of the present. So, Mukundan, in your expert advice and also as a board director and chief growth officer, how do you think AI and automation not will change, but is changing already operations and compliance, so to speak?
Very much. Thank you for that. To give you a little overview of me, I'm a data scientist by profession and doing the research on my B2B data-driven marketing, and completed my 17 journals, one on AI and automation last year. When I look back to that journal, what I published, it has already changed a lot of things in my journal, what I wrote it last year. And this year when I was speaking I do mentor youths across Singapore, right, and Malaysia and Brunei. When I was speaking this February after the DeepSeek incident, right, on the AI and cyber youths for Singapore and the National Youth Council, there is a change, right? By 2030, we're gonna see 190 million jobs gonna be volatile, right? Out of that 78 million is going to be lost, 92 million is going to be incoming. How is that, right? Because if they don't adopt AI, right, it's a friendly adoption, or you don't learn AI, you're going to be either in one of these two, right? That is the most important thing. When you see the predictions this year, around 75 to 80% Accenture predicts there's going to be a change in AI adoption all over the globe. And fastly, if you see the Singapore market is the first one across whole of APAC, it's adopting very faster to the changes, right? I've been working on one of the research module for the PDPA on putting that framework there on the compliance structure. When I see most of the companies, 80% of the companies are already using AI in Singapore, one way or the other way. But it is up to us, how do we want to adopt it? If we don't adopt it, we want to be in that 78 or 92. That's the chance what we will not take it today. That's the most important thing what we have to. We have to anticipate what we have to get it from it. That's what we make things to do. We tell what it has to be done. And if we wait for it, nothing happens.
That's so very true. So adapt or die and anticipation, keywords here from Mukundan. Dinesh, back to you. All of this, how do you kind of, if you have to think about platforms that are really doing well and they're like changing the game, what do you think, platforms and tools? Or any, also everyone please chime in.
So I think I used my first encounter of using AI at day-to-day job was almost 10 years ago now. You know, I heard a comment that AI is right now a 2-year-old baby. I think it's turned teen now, and it is developing its own mind, you know, in a lot of ways.
More of its
really forming opinions of people. And I mean, that is leading to singularity and all of that. I think that's far from now. But what does it mean in terms of marketing? What are the tools, etc.? And I think my first experience was content creation. I'll give you one example. I was part of the team which created one of the famous unicorn ice cream from Cornetto. It was called Unicornetto. The idea was generated at a foundational level through what is trending in the world. And back then, unicorn was big. So we said, okay, we know what is trending through social listening and blah, blah, blah. But we said, what does it mean for us? It created a very Strawman scope, or a very, I guess, not that enhanced version of what an ice cream, unicorn ice cream would look like. So that's how it started, and then we create, of course, then we discussed with the R&D team that what should be the flavor. They asked us what should be the flavor, what is trending, and we said marshmallow. So they said, okay, why we can put marshmallow, and likewise the idea was generated and things. So that was the first instance of creation of not just content but also idea. And I think that is going to be a big space, that is a big space still, and that's been scaled up to a huge level now. So, right now AI is everything for us. So wherever we do, we try to find efficiencies, and content creation is the first area. I think the second area which you heard before as well was hyper personalization. And that space is, we carefully navigate that space as well. And what we try and do in that space is make sure that we talking to the right personas. We are talking to the right personas of what fits with them and their needs. How can we make their life better? When we start to form the problem statement in around this, the solution starts to come up, and in that sense. So hyper personalization down to individual level is a little too far-fetched as for now, because it also requires investment. For companies who are creating, for phone which is being sold for $1,600 versus a soap that is being sold for $2, you can't be getting into hyper personalization. Let's be real, that's not good ROI. So therefore, what we try and do is really make sure that we talk to the same personas and then kind of create content on. So second tool and space is really around hyper personalization. And last is the most boring one, but actually the most important one, where the money comes in, which increases the bottom line for us, is routines. Creating routines, process flows, efficiencies, what portfolio works, what doesn't work, how can we remove the weed out. And that process flow, and I have spent a lot of time and energy in the 1.5 year just to get to the right portfolio through advanced analytics backed by ML-based engine. And what did we do really? We mimicked what our business partners wanted. So they wanted that these are the kind of portfolios we should be removing to be able to generate better profits for the right reason, right? You want a better shelf, you want right number of count of SKUs being presented and so on. So we learned through what they are trying to delete, and we trained the system to be able to now pick up what are the rationale. And different business groups, different business units, whether different countries, have their own criteria of forming what is right and what is wrong. And then we fed to the machine, learned, and over a period of time we realized that we are improving the efficiency of delisting something or bringing efficiency from 35% to 65%. And that's the real hallmark of what a true AI will do in the world of routines. So I spoke of content creation. The content creation is where my heart is, but I think my mind is more on efficiencies, where the money comes in here.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. Also, I think Patricia will want to say something here, but before I leave it to you, just gonna state, of course, the importance of frameworks. I think also today was kind of touched, but not really, I think, delved into. But frameworks is a huge part, and nailing them, especially with all of this, complexity. And then after Patricia, I also want to hear some more look on the challenges of AI and regulations. But first, Patricia, please.
Yes, just jumping off from Dinesh's description of platforms. So right now, the way marketing is in terms of the MarTech infrastructures, it's still fragmented. There are lots of new technologies coming up, etc. But there will be soon a time when all of these things will necessarily unite and flatten and integrate. And we all know that when that happens, some technology companies die and certain frameworks remain. So it's early days, but there's this emerging protocol called Model Context Protocol, or MCP, which allows AI to connect to all your data sources, all your infrastructure. Right now, we connect via physical integration and APIs, right? So that's why we have the composable MarTech models. But with MCP, what's going to happen is you have a unified language that enables marketeers to just easily really plug and play without even the need for the long integration protocols that we're doing right now. And what does this mean? What is the impact of this? The impact of this on marketing as a whole is that the trajectory of decision making and the data aggregation and the empowerment of agents will accelerate. And when that happens, what we need to think about is go back to the ethical questions, because it can go out of control. Like I mentioned earlier, the major forces behind all of these technologies really come down to a couple of maybe a few gentlemen who are rich and have certain perspectives. How this will affect us as marketeers and as consumers will need to be investigated, and therefore we need to go back to the questions that Mr. Luke has talked about.
And to you, Luke, with the challenges and regulation.
Yeah. So I just have to state my position. I am an optimist. My colleagues here are doing wonderful work with AI, so don't get me wrong. All I'm trying to say is that we just need to lay the foundation for ethics and trust in the next few years. Okay. Now back to the example. Our first contact with AI isn't 2022 or 2023. Our first contact with AI was when social media was developed. When was that? Facebook. Use Facebook. Yeah. That was our first contact with AI. Really, it was unbeknownst to the world. It wasn't AI or ANI or artificial narrow intelligence, traditional ML, all fancy words basically, that maximized an objective function for something called engagement. What's engagement? Engagement is your children's eyeball. I have a child, I'm sure most of you have a child as well. So to see him or her having her energy and lifespan sucked out onto a white screen, swiping left, right, up, down, diagonal, doesn't matter. That's optimizing for engagement. We haven't solved that. We swept it under the carpet, really. We're still very good at optimizing for engagement. We're very, very good at optimizing for engagement in marketing, in social. All I'm saying is that if we rebalance that problem of the optimization equation to put in mental health, for example, or to put in other tenets into the equation that we are solving for, it could have been a better place for us right now. The other point that I'll put across is that we have to look out for, it's like I think my colleague just mentioned about AI being, whether it's a teenager or not, we have to look out for something called emergent behavior. So that's my day job. So in all those vibe coding and all those code and stuff that's been developed automatically because we can do it now, it's basically voice to anything. I think Picasso was the one that mentioned whatever you can imagine can come true. It literally is becoming like that, right? So anything you can imagine, including coming up with a marketing program from start to finish with all. I actually did this in another conference. I actually did a marketing campaign inclusive of an MVP for an app that replaces, what was that? TikTok, because I recall back then, a few months ago, the US was very big on delisting TikTok and stuff like that. So I actually did a demo to show that you can actually go from code text prompt to MVP of a TikTok equivalent on stage. But so again, the point is, it's not whether we can, it's whether we should. And when I say emergent behavior, is that if you look into the code that's being generated, there are a lot of things that test the boundaries of trust. Like for example, the agency and planning capabilities of these agents, if you give it a sandbox to work in, you start seeing it asking for more permissions to do things more and more. Like, can I have access to an extra pair of toolkits? Can I have access to another secure environment for me to test it out from? And if you go and ask it to do an explicit out-reasoning, the verbose method of why are you doing that, if you do that test yourself, you'll be very surprised with some of the results that come out. So DeepSeek is a very good one. Everyone knows that DeepSeek is very good at communicating, right? It's very Claude as well. Try it out, actually. If you say that you give it an objective to maximize something, and you give it some scenarios, you'll be surprised and stunned sometimes by between that lines of prose that comes out. Why is it asking for access to certain things, or how it's all done? There is absolutely no emotion. It doesn't care that you are a human that has got, you need 7 or 8 hours. It goes on for 24/7. It doesn't care that it's going to create and derive a new financial product that no humans can understand. It's already talking amongst itself in a language that nobody understands because we are the ones that are slowing it down. So again, in my day job, that's what I do. I always look up for all these emergent. It's always testing. If you guys feel, you have children, they're always testing your limits of, how they can get around you. That's what I see. So I'm just worried about that.
Yeah, I get it. Mukundan, a little bit on you on how do you think is the best, like a very good example of AI being leveraged by companies today?
Okay, in my company, right, 3 years down the line, after Open API came, right, we started training and testing a lot of models. We developed 11 models out of that, 11 models out of that. One model was successful out of that, right? We are totally divergent to the B2B side, not to the B2C side. So one is ICP Active Leads. As a marketing company, we developed that model that is working very well for us. How to track a customer behavior from the delivery perspective to the deal closure perspective and everything. That is still running on, but that will change because we are testing another 2 models for that. I'm doing that testing for 2 models. That will change in the future because we should keep upgrading it. That's what. Right now, what we have seen, most of the time, before it is from a tofu to the bofu, right? There's no middle of the funnel right now. What is happening with that creation? What we have done, it is giving us a very clear conversions. 70% conversions out of that. Whatever we have done right now, we're still doing the first campaign for a customer right now, right? And it was very successful for us. We had promised around close to 250 on B2B leads, but we got around 1,681 out of that. That was a very good example what we can take it. But keeping that as an example, when we start adopting each and everything, like Luke said and all my panelists said, whatever we want to take a step back, right, and see what is the bigger picture, what we want to do in the first place. And that bigger picture will change based on the emerging technologies. If we don't have that on our roadmap, we will be a failure, right? And taking a cue from the youths, what I've learned is, most of the time we did one survey on the emerging technologies right now with All India Management Association. We tried to find out which are the frameworks, right? Going to Patricia's question. In the month of August, we started the survey to change the models for All India Management Association, right? And 21st that was released, and I've been working with them to develop that model for them, the course model completely. We see that Gen X is the most adopting one. Gen Zs are the most adopting one to the learning the predictive analytics or predictive management or data-driven decision making. Then millennials and Gen X. Right, if you see that they try to adopt it, but the only concern what they have is the compliance part, the consent part. They're very much taking a back step on it. But when you see the same thing with Gen X, they're not worried about compliance. But Gen Zs are very much concerned with the compliances.
Yeah,
that's
well,
a reason.
Very true, and Gen Zers are kind of setting the pace.
Right, they adopt that framework very much. They're the very fast adopters, if you see that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like very much the perspective of taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. And just very quickly, I think we're kind of closing, wrapping up soon, but before we do, Patricia, I wanted to hear a bit more. You mentioned agentic AI. Explain us a bit more about the implication also of M2M.
So the implication of it is if we have machines that make decisions on our behalf, the main implication of it is sometimes we won't know whether the decisions that they will be making are not due to hallucination, right? And that can have disastrous effects, which I will make this quick, which is why I think at the end of the day we need to, as humans, we need to curb our intentions and constantly investigate and take a step back, just like our younger generations, what they're doing, right? Take a step back and really look at what the impact of these implemented technologies are. So for me, that is the main message that I'd like to, amplify. It's really considering humanity above all of these technologies, and it should be our human values that should dictate, and not the other way around, with technology leading us. Or even in the case of something very scary, you have actually AI programming humans, actually
We're not
manipulating.
there yet.
But there are instances that it has happened, and that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dinesh, just one last word. I think it would be very interesting to know from you. What do you think is missing currently from MarTech, or also what is here that, to stay at the moment, or like biggest trends that you're seeing?
I think, so again, I'll start with content creation. What is here to stay, the scale of that is going to amplify even further. We are doing it even more on, making sure we have best-in-class content that drives desirability, and that's the underlying word, because we have spent a lot of time in understanding who we serve as consumers, as people, and trying to understand their motivations. Now that we have all codified, of course motivations also evolve, we keep constantly learning in it as well. But I think it is just going to take the desirability to the next level. What it means for us also is something that we need to think of. I probably might be digressing, but it is important for people like me also to realize, what does it mean in my day job, and what do I bring to the table then? Because a lot of the work that I've spent my years of experience is just to do what can be done now very easily and very at a snap. So, but I always think of this, and I talk to people who are very much entrenched and doing a lot of front-ending AI. I'm using AI as an application, but I'm not front-ending it in that manner. And when I talk to them, I always see that through their lenses. Something that we bring to the table which will never get replaced is something called as experiential arbitrage. What we have is something that will take some time to be replaced. We have a lot of time for that. We have a lot of people who we need to educate. When they get educated, we replace them. Then comes life takes a full circle. And then in 10 years, you would start to see that AI has fully been embedded in that sense. And then the job profiles will also evolve. Then the expectations of people will also evolve. So I think that one important question then, which I leave for all of us, is to really think of, what is your experiential arbitrage? What do you want to bring? That's something that you need to answer yourself.
Yeah, that's great. I think before we open up for the floor for questions, I just wanted to hear from each one of you, like one piece of advice that you would give, like something actionable that people can take home. And it's like, we discussed the complex implications of the scenario, the future, whether, I'll bloom, but I mean, we also understand the perspective, of course, of the warning signs, that should be detected. But it's like now, in the current present time that we do our, that we do our daily work, how can we make better data-driven and better informed decisions? So it's like, what is your piece of advice to navigate this future that we are predicting, but today? So.
Okay, before that, I'll answer one.
Yeah.
Answering to his question, there was one test what we have been doing on modeling on what we are working on hyper-personalization for. After April 1st, 2024, there is a lot of mass mailing or cold emailing is dead, right? DKM, after the DKM, SCM is introduced globally. We started this modeling on hyper-personalizing each of the email for each of the email. Then you get the delivery rate very high because that has changed a lot because people don't use it. When you start hyper-personalizing each one of it, and your ratio of getting the marketing solutions very, very easy, right? That is one. That has changed a lot. Another one is the extended reality and voice marketing is going to be the future, right? That is going to be coming place. Right now we are talking about agentic AI, which is already in play, right?
I had it on my points, voice, so great that you mentioned.
No, voice marketing is going to be the future, right? And if you ask me one word, what I would say for everyone is anticipate.
Great. Do you want to add something?
Yeah. Mine's very simple. I think seek the truth. Information is really abundant. There's more and more synthetic data that's being created all around us. Everyone has an opinion, someone else. But what I tell my kid is, even though you've Googled it before and now you're asking AI to do it, thinking process for you, the preciousness of human logic and reasoning is something that we need to preserve. That's me.
Thank you. Dinesh, as a conclusion.
Yeah, no, I was just reading through the subject is also, about, advanced analytics in the era of marketing. And I think when I think about this, a lot of the use cases that get propped up are great case studies. And a lot of the time, my team members come in and say, hey, well, I want to do this because it is using AI. Sometimes it's also to caress senior leadership. Sometimes it's also to say, I want to do the first thing in the world of AI. I want to prove it to the system. But my only question back to, and which I get asked, is show me the money. How do I prioritize? There are so many tens of things that we need to do. So I guess one thing that we always, it's a basic thing.
Prioritize is like another keyword.
I see where you get the return of investment, you deploy AI in that space. It could be profitability improvement, it could be margin improvement, it could be resource, improvement, in that sense. And I think that's where I try to stop a lot of work. A lot of work needs to be stopped, even not even asked, no question asked, stop it. We start to, and of course it also need to protect talent, the right kind of talent also in that sense, so that
that mirrors very much what Mukundan also said, like look at the bigger picture, stop, pause, look at the bigger picture. Patricia, final thought.
Yes, well, most businesses definitely will always investigate technological implementations from the lens of ROI. That makes sense, it's a business. However, I want to be consistent with what I was saying earlier, that if you are implementing or creating any technology, just take a step back and always advocate for the good of humanity. Because currently, that's what's lacking. Given what's happening in the world, greed prevails. So, in technology, it's never about, I heard this from another conference, when you're talking about technology, it's never about the hardest stuff is the soft stuff, which is our intentions, the truth, and what benefits the greater number of people. So that's what I want to leave the audience with.
Common good. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Can we have a big round of applause for our session that is predicting the future? Very quickly, we can take one question. Okay, takes.
Just a question on AI guardrails and to the panel generally, but talking to Dr. Soon's earlier comments about we've probably got 2 to 5 years to put the guardrails in place for AI development and AI utilisation. Do you have any insights on where those guidelines are going to come from? My observation is that we look to government to do that, and government's wheel moves very slow, but tech wheel moves very fast. And there was hope that with GDPR being adopted in the EU, that GDPR was the gold standard, and that probably the other big thought leader, government-wise, in the space in the USA was going to do something very similar. But now with Trump and the ignition of the bromance tech flames over there in the USA, it seems unlikely. And we've recently had Australia ban social media for under 16. So as digital marketers, do you agree that these guardrails are going to come from government? And is there one place we should be looking for as our North Star? Or as digital marketers, do you foresee a patchwork where we have to have different rules applied and different parameters set for every region we market to?
Such a great question. And it's the one that keeps me up at night, really. The Europeans are quite good at this, GDPR, but I hate to say this, but they are losing out in this East-West thing. I'm just choose my words carefully.
Hyper-regulating or?
I'm flipping my thoughts. So governments need to be the ones to lead us. Unfortunately, with all other technologies, if you study human history, they've always played a laggard's role, right, to technology, all the way up to the internet, invention of phones, everything like that. And I literally, in my day job, I actually, I feel so much about this. I actually see human connections breaking down, literally. East-West obviously is a big example. I was just sharing with some panelists, like, the stuff that we can do on the Western stack and the stuff that we can do on the Chinese stack is so polarized right now. We're locked in a prisoner's dilemma. Everyone knows what that is. It's like, I'm not sure what you're doing, so I'm going to just get it first. Come back to your question. My personal opinion, and this is where I spend most of my pro bono time outside of work, is I feel that the Europeans should press on and lead the charge and bring both sides together. Although that's very easy to say, there's too much at stake right now. So if you look at the EU and AI, the UK Safety Acts, if you look at the California Acts, Singapore just came out with one. I think Singapore's probably like top 3, 4, and Australia's like way up there, G7, right? The military will never accede to some of the stuff that's being put across. There's just too much at stake, that's all I can say. I know I'm not really answering your question, can talk all the time, but the government really needs to step up. This is a no replay button, AI is a no redo. Even with the previous arms race, between, let's say I'm US and you're Russia, although we hated each other's guts, I know you've got 4,000 warheads there. There was a phone line at least that said that, don't do that. I've got 4,000 warheads. You've got 3,857 warheads. With AI, there's none. There's no phone, that analog phone, that phone that, like lets me know or yeah. So we don't have a WHO, we don't have an OECD equivalent, we don't have United Nations, NATO is very West-driven. We don't have one that governs policy. So I feel, the French did it, I think a few months ago, Macron invited Modi, I think, right? That was a good one. Sorry, I'm not answering your question again, but you saw what JD Vance said right on stage. I thought that was a bit of a slap to the Europeans, but anyway, I felt that, and they say that, you're either with us or we're not. But I still feel that Europe should be the one that glues all of this together. Yeah. So, long answer to your question, there's no global regulations for AI right now. We've got the kiddie frameworks going on, but nowhere near enough, especially, I'll get a bit more detail, nowhere near, especially when it comes to humanoids and defense scenarios. The humanoid scenarios is coming real because imagine a world without work. So humans, all these years, I mean, all of our existence, we've been working because of scarcity to get more resources and stuff like that. If all of that goes away, because you guys have heard of the numbers that are coming on, right? Figure is making a big one for listing. I think by the end of next year, we know Mr. Musk will come very close after that. So the estimate is about like 5-7 billion humanoids by 28 or 29. We just have to rethink all the frameworks on what human core value sets are. Yeah. But yeah, just to answer your question very bluntly, there is no government, but governments need to be, and that's what I spend most of my waking hours trying to do, talk to these people, policy regulators, but no one seems to be taking up that mantle, and I'm not sure whether it's driven by other agendas or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
I thank you so much, Luke, for this answer. It's still an answer because it's a very complex and very, very articulate question, and then I think closes perfectly this panel, but at the same time, it remains partially unanswered just because of the complexity of the scenario here. But for sure, you touched on one last point that I just want to make, and then we'll close very quickly, that yes, it should come from governments, but at the same time, the speed of the technologies in terms of development is huge. So regulating, even for countries like, with the EU AI Act, I mean, I think it was an excellent job. Yes, is it enough? No? Is it global? No. But I mean, we have to get there. We have to get there quickly, but at the same time, technology keeps advancing very quickly. So it's like a very, very big challenge. But thank you so much for a very, very interesting discussion. Thank you again, Patricia, Dinesh, Luke, and Mukundan for today.
I have a question for the panel. Yeah, I'll just keep it very short because you have to respect the time. I really love the relatable examples what you all gave it. I'm looking out for a couple of 2 or 3 action items, what as a panel members you would like to suggest. In a world where advanced analyticals drive real-time decisions and predictive precision, how can organizations ensure that their brand doesn't just become another algorithm devoid of soul, trust, and human decision making that fosters a timeless connection in its audience? So what I want to understand from the panel here, you really touched on very relatable examples and the Generation X and Gen Y. I want to understand that where the algorithms are so important, so what can organization do that they are not devoiding the brand, of the soul and the connection? So a couple of action items if the panel could help us with. Thank you.
There is a framework called TOE framework, right? That still holds good for even level of adoption of AI, okay? If any organizations wants to adopt and engage them, the TOE framework is the better one, and they can go and upscale it in the later stages also. You have the silence on it, how they can adopt in the future stages and have that clear roadmap. How can they embrace it very clearly? But if they go with that, it is very good. That's my thought.
I mean, I think the answer is very simple. As long as you're making money, as long as your brand equity is strong, you're in the right space. And those two I think those two measures are now easy to track as well. So you can go and look at your daily sales. You can look at hourly sale. You can look at consumer sentiment on the dashboard. As long as all are tracking right, whatever AI is deploying, which of course is not going to be nonsensical completely, we have come off that era already. I think if you know your brand, you see it, and you are seeing that content is excellent and the brand is growing, I think the answer is there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So can we have a big round of applause for a wonderful session moderated by Roberta. So she has joined second time with DigitalConfex. So thank you Dr. Liu, Patricia, Pat, Mukundan and Dinesh. So can we have a big round of applause for the wonderful speakers and let's acknowledge them. Please come forward for the group photograph.
Round of applause for Patricia. Come on, everyone, huge round of applause for Patricia. So next we have Dr. Luke Soon. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Dr. Luke. So next we have Mukundan AP. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Mukundan. So next we have Dinesh Ramchandani. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Dinesh. And at last, for our wonderful moderator of the session, Roberta, experimental yacht cruise in Dubai by Champions Lagoon. Wow. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Roberta.
Okay, photo now? On behalf of photo? Sorry. Photo. Yeah. You can fix the certificate.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, great. 3, 2, 1. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Roberta, and thanks to other key speakers.